Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stepping directly into the shoes of someone surviving day to day. We're going to explore the profoundly human story of a daily wage laborer. We'll dive into his simple lifestyle, his incredible devotion to his family, the childhood hardships that really shaped him, and the painful isolation he feels from former friends. But ultimately, we're looking at his unwavering pride. It's an absolutely powerful look at the invisible hands that literally build the world around us.
To really set the tone, listen to this poignant reflection from our source material. In this false world, who belongs to whom? Everyone here is a companion of self-interest. It's a heavy thought, right? This comes from the conclusion of our laborer's account, and it perfectly frames his everyday reality. It's a world where relationships are, unfortunately, often transactional, and your social standing pretty much dictates who your friends are. Keep this idea on the back of your mind as we go through this journey, because this sense of transactional relationships colors his entire experience, right from his childhood connections all the way to his daily struggle for survival.
Now, you might be wondering how he views himself. Well, in the text, the narrator refers to himself as a dinarmajuria or a mulia. These are local terms for a daily wage earner. But here's the kicker. Rather than viewing this just as some economic disadvantage, he frames it entirely around providing for his household. It's not a social burden, it's a deeply respected badge of family devotion. The sheer physical exhaustion of his entire day is dedicated to one single noble purpose, and that's making sure his family is fed and cared for. It's a title earned through pure, honest exertion.
And when you compare his material needs to the heavy responsibilities he shoulders, it's actually staggering. His personal wardrobe? It consists of just 2 cheap gamushas, which are traditional cotton towels, and 2 ganjis, or vests. That's literally all he wears to do the heavy lifting. For special occasions, like visiting friends or attending festivals, he has exactly 1 simple cloth and a shirt, the whole shebang. Yet, out of that incredibly tiny income, he somehow manages to pay for his children's schooling. He even ensures they can participate in community life, like making and sharing traditional pitapana sweets during year-round festivals. It is just a massive demonstration of prioritizing family over self. So, despite all that intense physical exhaustion, he finds immense gratitude in something we often take for granted, a home-cooked meal. Our source describes him coming home completely, totally drained, but when evening falls, whatever simple food they have available becomes a profound comfort. He explicitly notes that the taste of that home-cooked meal is just incredibly good. It's a beautiful reminder of how hard physical labor kind of strips away all the superficial stuff, leaving behind a deep, resonant appreciation for the most basic comforts that sustain life.
Let's transition into part 1 of our breakdown, the social toll. We'll be looking at childhood hardships and lost friends.
So, how did he end up here? Well, his life's trajectory was altered super early on by severe financial constraints. Because his father's financial situation was never stable, and he admits he wasn't exactly a stellar student anyway, his schooling just ended prematurely. He was pushed into the workforce at a really young age. Instead of spending his youth learning or playing like most kids, he was trading his daily sweat and sacrificing his sleep just to survive.
And this leads us to one of the most heartbreaking revelations in the source text, his painful social isolation. The friends he used to go to school with, they've moved up the economic ladder. Because they're now financially secure, they actively distance themselves from him. He points out that they never invite him to their homes for events or gatherings. Why? Simply because they're terrified someone might recognize him as their friend and judge them for associating with a common manual laborer. That economic divide has completely, absolutely severed their shared childhood bond.
You can really see this economic divide perfectly symbolized by his trusty old bicycle. It contrasts so sharply with the expensive motorized vehicles his friends own, and, by the way, the same vehicles his children desperately want. On one hand, you have his bicycle, which he actually describes as a loyal, long-time companion. On the other hand, almost everyone else around him has upgraded to motorcycles or cars. The tension here isn't just out in the world, it's happening right inside his own home. His kids constantly ask him to buy a motorized vehicle, but as he rationally asks them, how could a daily wage earner ever afford something like that? The bicycle acts as this daily physical reminder of the hard ceiling on his purchasing power.
Now, let's move into part 2, living on the edge, and the intense struggle of uncertain income.
For a lot of us with steady salaries, bad weather might just mean a dreary, annoying commute. But for a daily wage earner, it triggers a terrifying domino effect. Bad weather means absolutely no work is available, and since he relies entirely on what he earns that exact day to put food in the pot, no work literally means no money.
The situation deteriorates in the blink of an eye, forcing him to borrow money and fall straight into debt just to cover the basic necessity of eating. It was a wildly fragile existence. And if you think missing a meal is scary, imagine getting sick. The looming threat of modern medical expenses is a massive source of anxiety for him, just constantly hanging over his head as he mixes his sweat with the soil. The text notes that he works day and night, becoming one with the soil, yet the lack of money is this gnawing, ever-present fear. When work stops, he worries about his stomach, sure, but even more terrifying is worrying about his health. With the skyrocketing costs of medicine and hospital treatments today, just the mere thought of getting sick makes him physically shudder. His body is his only asset. It's his only tool for survival. So in illness, it's a literal matter of life and death for his whole family.
Finally, let's look at part 3, pride and honest labor, where we really see his dignity and resilience shine through. He operates with this incredibly powerful concept called swabimon, a deep, profound self-respect. He finds massive self-satisfaction in knowing his family's survival is earned purely through his own honest work. Think about it. Despite every hardship we've just discussed, the lost childhood, those fair-weather friends, the terrifying financial edge he lives on, he never, ever views himself as a victim. He takes immense pride in his labor. The sheer exertion of his daily grind grants him a clear conscience and a deep inner peace. He is earning his way through the world honestly, and that grants him a level of dignity that money just cannot buy. No way.
And yes, it hurts that his childhood friends drifted away to protect their social status. But nature abhors a vacuum, right? In his current life, he has successfully built new, authentic relationships. He shares traditional foods with his neighbors, his village community, and his true relatives. These new bonds are forged in the reality of their shared experiences and mutual support. It totally proves that while money might buy you status, it absolutely doesn't buy authentic community.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to take a second and reflect on the invisible daily wagers around you. Ask yourself, how can you better recognize the incredible dignity in their honest labor? We started out with a quote about self-interest, but what we've actually uncovered today is a story of unbelievable selflessness. This is a man who gives his sweat and his sleep for his children, who finds absolute joy in a simple meal, and who walks through life with unbreakable self-respect. Next time you see a daily wage earner, I challenge you to look past the worn clothes and see the swabimon, that profound dignity, standing right in front of you. Until next time, keep learning and keep looking deeper.